Hello and welcome back to the LEC Summer. It's all giggles, sunshine and rainbows coming into match of the week. G2 Esports up against Fnatic. We've been talking a whole lot about it. But as you can see, we need an analyst. We need someone to actually provide some insight. We need a brain behind this brawn. I was coming to the compliment.
Okay, thank you.
We're
thank you.
We're just very smart.
Yeah.
Fortunately, the genius is behind us, Mr. Carzzy. Nice to see you again, albeit not necessarily in the flesh. And of course, you know, there's multiple things to talk about. One thing being the loss, albeit not necessarily one you're too concerned with. Much more about the fact that, Trev, correct me if I'm wrong, these Mad Lions boys could have a ticket to Worlds alongside
Correct.
Rogue.
Do you know, Carzzy, that you or Rogue are guaranteed to place first and you'll be playing against each other the next week?
I know that.
And what does it mean for you to know that you are potentially one victory away from not only placing first in the regular season, you know, looking at locking in the first place seed for players, but then guaranteeing you go to Worlds?
Well, it's great. It's our second split and we are playing this well.
Yeah.
Except last game for sure.
Yeah, we'll forget that one.
We'll give you one. We'll give you one. But I mean, just for you personally, as well as the team, I mean, would be your first Worlds, and to have not only that opportunity, but to have that opportunity so early.
Yep.
We're week 7, day 2, and it's happening. Then you're telling me there's a head-to-head Mad Lions Rogue coming up.
That's correct. Next week.
Well, I'm not there, but I'm sure it'll be good, Carzzy, and I'm sure you'll have a whole lot of fun. Do stay with us, though, because I would love to pick your brains about this match of the week. We've got Fnatic G2. It's often a highlight, often talked about, and I am sick to death of hearing Trevor or Froskurinn. Both of them have their pink hair on at times. It's confusing, but they're just telling me Kings, Dynasty, Legacy. It's the same nonsense every time. So maybe, Carzzy, you can provide some original analysis. Fnatic G2, give me something to hold on to.
So I think that G2 right now are not playing poorly anymore and they became a good team again. I'm kind of scared for Fnatic though, because their champion pool is not great at the moment, and also some in-game moments are kind of scary for the fans.
Talking about in-game moments, based on yesterday's performance, I agree. You know, G2 look fantastic. I'm hesitant to just believe G2 are back. Do you think, based on what you're seeing maybe off stage and in scrims and things that maybe, you know, that we don't get to see on stage, that the G2 that we're used to watching is now going to show up today and next week as well?
Not entirely sure if they're going to show up today, but for sure we are going to see them back soon.
It certainly has to happen. We're running out of time. You are not, though, Carzzy. And I just want to kind of leave one final question with you, which is, yes, Fnatic have had their struggles. Yes, G2 have too. But Mad Lions versus Rogue, now that's a matchup coming up next week. I wanted you to know what gives you the edge and an edge coming into that battle for a ticket to Worlds.
So I think what gives us the edge, we are smarter about the game, and also we have better champion pool.
Keeps coming back to that champion
That's
pool,
like sort of sweet.
We're gonna go ahead and leave it with that one.
We will. The one thing I just want to chuck out there really quickly, as you know, I am a bit of a numbers man here on the show.
You haven't got more numbers.
Oh, I do, and like stick with me because it is a little complicated. Of course, in terms of the number of scenarios left where G2 and Fnatic can lock playoffs, it's 85% for Fnatic and it's 72% for G2. In the event of Fnatic winning, that goes to 95% of all scenarios Fnatic make playoffs. In the event of a G2 victory, that goes to 74%. Now, in terms of if they lose, it's not the end of the world as much. Still, you know, you're looking at 54% and 74%, so the odds are still fairly in their favor. But for Fnatic fans especially, looking at where they are on the standings and the fear, if they win today, all but certain. So many things have to go wrong next week in order for them to drop out.
Wow, that is a whole lot of percentages, and it's probably enough for Carzzy to want to end the call, so I'll let you go. Thank you, Carzzy. Respect, some good numbers there. And one more percentage for you guys watching at home. This is 100% of my week at the LEC done.
Thank you so much, Alex.
Yeah, it's been fun. I love this. I get to show up and just be kind of like the new kid at school and just make silly jokes, and you give me the freedom to do that. I'm having fun. Thank you for having me, and thank you for all the lovely tweets. The League community tweets me way more than the CS one. I just show up for a day and I'm getting smiley emojis, and it's lovely. You're all lovely. Now, and who else is lovely is this TriCast. For now, it is time for the next chapter in League of Legends' biggest rivalry. And we'll leave it to this absolutely apt TriCast to guide you through.
Tweet at Machine, we love you.
I love Machine too. I love your ability to take a sentence in any possible one of
like
a million
6
directions.
sentences.
Slam it all together, but you always get there in the end. That is truly a broadcast skill we can all aspire to. I'm Drakos. In the next cubicle to my right is Froskurinn. Followed by that is Vedius. This is our new game show about dating casters. I'll be caster number 1. We'll be asked questions over the course of this cast. No, we're actually here for a very serious cast. It's Fnatic versus G2, and there's actually a lot to talk about with this one as we get into Champ Select.
Let's go! I'm hyped. It's G2 versus Fnatic. I'm joined by these two fantastic people. We've already had some glorious games today.
Frost,
I know.
it's your turn. Stand 2.
Yeah, I'm joined by these two.
Nice. Synergy.
Oh, I'm ready. I'm so ready. G2 have been on the upswing. Fnatic still a lot of question marks. And the last time they met, it was a one-sided, destructive obliteration. Fnatic got destroyed.
But I feel like one of the biggest adaptations that G2 made is they went away from scaling and they played entirely early game. You know, they got Perkz back on a comfort pick like Kalista, and they unlocked Mikyx in particular to go to Caps' lane. So while they're playing more early game, they're still all about Caps, whereas on the other side, Fnatic did not look like a team. They looked like 5 individuals, and 3 of them were running it down.
And no surprise to see, especially after the performances recently from Perkz, that the Kalista will be banned away. Of course, it is a Fnatic standard. They always ban it, but definitely you do not want to give it into the hands of Perkz. The Kha'Zix will follow, and we got to keep our eyes on how both teams want to approach this draft. Comfort picks have been the name of the game for Fnatic, and G2, as mentioned by you, Froskurinn, has been a lot about these early game champions.
I'm thinking that Syndra, okay, they banned it away. Yeah, I was going to say that Syndra is probably going to be high on the priority list. Even though a lot of teams have been getting their hands on Syndra this weekend, I feel like G2 is the team you can't afford to give it to. Caps has an astonishing record on the champion. And when we saw him playing against Rogue last week, you can see how game-changing he can be when he gets his hands on.
One of the things, or one of the champions that I do want to talk about though that hasn't been banned yet is the Azir, and Carzzy kind of alluded to this idea of champion pool issues for Fnatic. Nemesis has shown the Azir, but only once, I believe, this split, and he's much more likely to go towards something like an Orianna, and I think it's kind of one of the big holes that seems to be missing from Fnatic. And that's not to say that Nemesis can't play it, but for whatever reason, Fnatic don't want to go near it if that is how it breaks into taking away from Selfmade's jungler or what have you.
And I do feel that with this priority on the Volibear, this suggests to me that with the Orianna open, Fnatic may very well look to do something like an Orianna plus the set, very similar to what we've been seeing from the Orb, but a very sharp pivot away from the conventional, well, I say conventional, we're going back to Selfmade Classic on the Lee Sin.
We're going back to Bwipo Classic on the Gangplank as well, and there's a possibility that Twisted Fate, I mean, you just mentioned the Orianna, but TF has also slipped through all of the ban phases. This could just be, you know, Fnatic playing comfort across the board. It's against G2, like, let's just put us on our best champions and see what happens.
And while TF has seen a lot of nerfs, obviously comfort picks are hugely important. G2 Esports seem to be getting more of the meta powerhouses, though, in the Volibear and the Caitlyn, now paired with the Morgana as well, just generally incredibly strong in lane. We'll see how Fnatic want to end their first pick phase here. As said already, some comfort picks. They've already shown where the Gangplank is going. Question is, who are they saving these last picks for, and what are they trying to set up with the composition that they've built so far?
Well, we're going to assume that it's going to be a split map. Before secondary ban phase comes through, Rekkles is making sure that he gets Jhin, one of his champions that can play very safe, very far back into the lane. And we already saw how beautifully Gangplank and Jhin synergize together. Gangplank drops the ultimate, Jhin then gets a long-range snare with his W off of the back of the cannon barrage. So super cool interactions there, and also opens up a lot of team fight power on long lanes for Fnatic later on.
I think G2 have to ban Karma now. Depending on, the Bard ban I also think is quite good here. The fact that Bard has been able to slip this far through is actually quite surprising. But I think you want to get rid of a lot of the ranged mage supports because they actually do very well into Karma. You want to, Morgana. You want to be able to break her spell shield as quickly as possible so that Jhin can then set up to land his follower.
My concern though is that Hilly has never really been the Karma player of Fnatic, and we last saw this combination with Pyke, so I'm curious if they don't ban Karma and they instead ban the Pyke to try to deny one of the combos.
Very difficult, though. Obviously, the Pyke into the Morgana, a single binding ever connects, you instantly die. Very vulnerable champion. You have so many tools to keep yourself alive, but in terms of raw stats, your health bar incredibly low. The traps as well, you're going to find yourself getting one shot. That said, if anyone can make those crazy plays work, it is most certainly Hylissang, and you're worried about the playmakers. That's usually what I have my eyes on, but they just do not want to let Rekkles feel safe, and Comfort picks are just 100% of the name of the game if this gets locked in. Fnatic just want to do what they're best at. They do not care what G2 are bringing to the table.
Because it's not about the Morgana Pyke matchup here if he locks this in. This is actually all about what Nemesis is going to get for the counter pick into caps, and this is about blitzing Hilly towards that mid lane with Selfmade on the Lee-Sin. They're going to have a super powerful snowball-esque, or at least hard CC from whatever mid laner it's going to be there, and I just have a feeling that it's going to be Hilly, Selfmade, and Nimi constantly blitzing at caps.
My biggest problem, though, is that Fnatic are just conceding this 2 versus 2. I feel like that when you run Caitlyn Morgana, the biggest thing you have to be careful of is how strong and how dominant that can be. We already saw it earlier from SK, and I feel like that when you lock in that Pyke, you just concede so much lane pressure. You do have potential gank setup, but with good black shielding, I think it's going to be very difficult for Fnatic to really stop this bot lane of G2 from rolling away with the early game.
And I also really like then the pickup from LeBlanc because it feels like that was one of the big champions that Nemesis could have grabbed. And then it's also really hard to punish a LeBlanc.
Yep.
You know, if Hilly and Selfmade are going to be looking at caps, he now has the added benefit of the distortion.
Also, if we do see, okay, I think that the Corki is probably the best option that Nemesis could have gone for here, because LeBlanc typically does well into the Azir as well. So by going for the Corki, you can nullify a lot of the pressure that LeBlanc likes to exert. But most importantly, what I like about this LeBlanc is that with LeBlanc plus Volibear, insanely strong 2v2 mid-jungle duo, which they can then use to rotate to bot lane. You can see that G2's game plan here is once again very much about the early game. They can split the map up into a split push state with this composition that they have for themselves, and it feels like when we talk comfort, yeah, Fnatic have got themselves a lot of comfort picks. The Gangplank in the top lane, the Corki in the mid, Jhin, Pyke, Lee-Sin, but G2 have also got very classic G2 that they found a lot of success with last year.
And this is going to start right at level 1. It's so important that they set up the split map there for G2, so they need to make sure that the action starts right at 1.
Fnatic versus G2 coming right at you. Two team compositions with an immense amount of damage coming out on both sides. There are effectively no true tanks in this game, and there is a ton of CC and setup on the side of G2. One mistake from either of these teams in the early game will cost them dearly, and already Fnatic are looking to catch G2 out as they move into the bottom side.
We were looking for the potential split map forced from G2 here, but actually it doesn't look like that's what they're going to try to do at all. Fnatic actually set up the level 1 with the very early 5-man stack into the bot lane ward just to see what was possibly going to happen from G2, and it actually just looks like a delayed invade, if anything.
And all is quiet on the map, and as long as we've got a brief break here, we might as well inject some Legacy Kings Dynasty. G2 Esports and Fnatic, they both have 7 titles, all-time head-to-head. Obviously, G2 are leading, you know, doing pretty well. Overall, you could safely say, but this year is especially one I want to focus on. 6-0 to G2. And as mentioned already by you, Vedius, last time they played was most certainly a dominant performance from G2 Esports.
Yeah, it certainly was. It felt like the G2, the moment they got their hands on an advantage, they just ran away with the game. So with the composition that they've drafted themselves, they're looking to do the same thing. The question is, will they be able to, as Perkz already off to a good bit of poke in the 2 versus 2.
And let's kind of theorize, you know, why G2 wouldn't necessarily have to force a split map here. You guys talked about in Champion Select how Morgana does fairly well into Pyke in terms of the 1v1 or 2v2 matchup in this case of how it's done. So they feel like maybe, even to win this 2v2, we don't need to force a split map to be aggressive on Morgana Caitlyn. As I say that though, Mikyx takes a ton of damage. But then also the fact that it's Camille Gangplank up into the top side. There is actually still a lot of reason why Jankos might want to...
Oh! This is massive from Hylissang. Already getting the flashes early out. Rekkles just want to chase the kill. One more shot, he's cleansed out. That's going to be first blood. They're going to look for another one. And this was one of the only windows of opportunity to pull ahead in this lane, and Fnatic found it. Wow.
I'm literally trying to set up, you know, they could play around Wunder, and now he's gonna die.
Fnatic are just dying on G2 in this laning phase right now. Hylissang landing back-to-back level 1 hooks onto both Mikyx and Perkz was huge because it just set up for Rekkles to just utilize some of the early game power that Jhin does have. And now Selfmade is looking bot, no flash, no heal on Perkz. I think he might just be here to cover. Jankos looking for a gank.
That's the thing, you don't expect that to happen, especially not in Fnatic versus G2, but here's Selfmade.
Hylissang, of course, going to have the ease, taking his time, though, dashing out. Jankos not going to get to safety. They're going to be able to follow that one up. Guardian proc. Jankos running for his life. Selfmade flashing in, though. Selfmade caught in the tower, and Jankos lives! Oh,
What?
no, that's a tilter.
Oh my...
Okay.
I love Fnatic G2 games. What the hell?
Not for this reason, though! This is the opposite! What is going on? Okay, so to kind of summarize, we're 1-1 right now. Due to some pretty crazy kill. I cannot believe Jankos didn't die. Observers, if you could please give us a slow-mo of that as we see a bit of supportal combat going on.
And Hylissang playing with a bit of fire here. He's going to be forced to dash away.
I just... What?
Let's have a look. Here we go. So Jankos, really good read from Selfmade. He knows that this player is coming. Perkz still only level 1. Hylissang just baiting things in. Really good stun, like everything is good. Lands the... Oh, the Guardian
It's Guardian,
proc.
yeah.
Selfmade gets another auto, it's still not enough, he flashes in, and then Jankos, of course, has the stun. So then the auto doesn't come through, Rekkles is hitting Mikyx. Wow. That is a feels bad, man.
That's a massive feels bad, man, and that feels like it throws away so much of the advantage that Fnatic just built themselves up. Perkz was at 4 CS coming back to that lane, and while level 1 was so good for Fnatic, they found that window of opportunity before there were traps, before there was Black Shield to get kills for themselves. They kind of threw it away right there, and now Mikyx and Perkz are very comfortable in this lane.
Well, I mean, we're just basically shaking hands on the junglers, just kind of covering who's going to be super far forward in the lane. We got to see some of the little bit of the combo or the attempted combo there from Perkz and Mikyx. The idea is they dark binding hits, and then you set a trap underneath them, then you block the headshot off the trap, and then you hit them with the fadeaway Q, and then if they're still alive, they probably shouldn't be. They're going to die. And that's the idea of what Mikyx and Perkz are constantly going to be fishing for, because you guys said it, you know, now that Hilly doesn't have that window of fishing level 1 hooks and finding both of them, it's much harder to play out this state of the lane phase for Pyke, and he's going to be swimming around and finding somewhere else to terrorize.
So while a lot of crazy stuff has been happening in the bot lane, we also have to recognize that in the top lane, Bwipo forced a flash out from Wunder, and Caps has actually been falling behind Nemesis in the 1v1. Some of the great power that Nemesis does have, or on the Corki rather, is you can mitigate and play pretty safe against Caps, but I think Caps also looked to roam down bot, and he lost a bit of early CS. You've also got to remember Nemesis using that early teleport as well. So this oppressive LeBlanc lane right now being handled very well by Nemesis in this match.
Which is very important, because there have been questions about performance, there have been questions about champion pool, so the fact that Nemesis has been more comfortable in this lane, that he's off to a good start, and yes, part of that is the fact that the bot lane has been so chaotic that attention has been drawn down there, but that is exactly the start that this Fnatic lineup would want to have in the lane phase.
I mean, absolutely. You had basically everyone winning in their lane phases for Fnatic. When was the last time you saw that one? The fact that they got kill bot lane, that Vedius just talked about it. You know, Wunder is getting smashed in the face by Bwipo. It's been a nuts game in the first 5 minutes.
A lot of trading back and forth, but Fnatic finally able to bounce the wave back here, it would appear. And Selfmade hovering around the area is going to be able to clear out a little bit of vision, but all is quiet. It does not look like Fnatic are comfortable enough to try to push for an early Drake here. There is Scuttle Vision, so instead Rekkles will just back. Stormrazor first appears to be the option, or at least that's what the dagger would indicate in his inventory. We'll have to keep an eye on the Jhin itemization.
That is the Rekkles special here, but it looks like Fnatic now kind of using the rocket power and the fact that they have Perkz and Mikyx underneath the tower, and Caps is just now coming to lane to get an early access point into this Drake.
And it looks like the Fnatic will be able to secure this one as well. And when we talked about G2's composition, a lot of it was about getting early advantages. Perkz and Mikyx in this 2v2 lane should have had a lot of lane dominance. They should have been constantly pushing in the wave. We wanted to see Caps looking for roams towards the bot side of the map. But a lot of that has been mitigated due to extremely good play from Rekkles and Hylissang, finding those level 1 hooks, being able to set up these ganks and force a lot of summoner spells out, but also how Nemesis has been handling Caps in the mid lane. So Fnatic off to a very good start, and securing that early mountain also denies that win condition that SK used earlier in the day of playing for very early Drakes.
Which is absolutely massive, and of course with Mountain and Ocean taken off the table, you're going to either have Cloud, which is definitely nice to have for a lot of these champions, or Infernal, which is insane for either one of these teams. And additionally, last time we saw G2 be really successful, or at least in the last few games, it's been about roaming mid and the Kate Morgana duo, much less about bullying in lane. So as good as it looks for the G2 bottom lane in a lot of instances, it doesn't feel like we're going to get to see the same Caps unleashed performance, at least until he's got one item under his belt.
I think it was also about waiting till you had something to work with, particularly maybe a Camille having level 6. So now that Wunder is also level 6, I think there's more opportunity now for Caps to leave his lane and start roaming around. That said, Nemesis could very easily match it with Corki.
Selfmade here. Jankos level 6. They have the level advantage. Actually tied up as Bwipo's level 7, but big damage coming in. They're going to follow it up with the stun. Wunder's going to clean that one up, and now Selfmade's going to be in trouble, calling down the thunder there, and Selfmade goes under the tower, but he's burning down, and just like that, G2 pick up 2 kills.
Yeah, and there we go. It was a setup that they were waiting for. Now, Wunder sets it up perfectly for Jankos, and then Caps kind of on the back end to find some cleanup there.
And what's interesting is how they rotated Perkz and Mikyx up towards the mid lane. Mikyx can now help with this Rift Herald as well, provide a little bit of additional cover. And Caps is actually going to rotate down towards the bot side of the map. So as Frosk was alluding to earlier, that good setup from G2 enables them to get a couple of early kills. And they'll get a slight gold advantage for the time being, but Rekkles and Hylissang going to respond in kind of the bot side. They should very likely get themselves 2 plates. So overall, the gold should stay pretty even.
Of course, as the Herald goes down, though, we have to keep in mind that that should be at least 300 more gold into the pocket of G2. It won't get them to 1,000, but it's going to be solid to have as Rekkles pushing pretty far forward here along with Hylissang. Hylissang has to be very careful in this one. Very easy for the LeBlanc to one-shot him if she gets the opportunity, but Hylissang playing smartly with his cooldowns will not give Caps the opportunity.
I think these lane assignments are really fascinating because this is not conventional. We don't typically see these early swaps come out, and it feels like that Perkz and Mikyx almost want to avoid that 2 versus 2. And Caps are saying, well, you know what, I can hold my own, but also I want to get out of this Corki lane as well. So I'm curious as to what their thought process is in terms of this actual setup, but it also means that they're in a position to be able to rotate and contest things like the Drake that will be spawning 2 minutes, and there's no need to send the bot lane top because the Rift Herald has already fallen. So I feel like this small adaptation should alleviate some of the pressure from the G2 lane.
I feel like it's always just kind of like a passing of the baton for both these teams that, especially when resets kind of get staggered like this, that it's kind of first come, first serve into a lot of these lanes to pick up farm, and then there's very nice trading and the waves moving back and forth of, you know, Nemesis wanders into the mid lane, Bwipo's like, okay, yeah, I understand my place in the hierarchy, wanders out of it.
Hylissang shadowing top side. Unclear if Wunder got the notification over his head there that Pyke was coming in, but it looks like he's just giving a little bit of space to Bwipo as question mark ping has come down top side. Mikyx fishing for the binding, but will not find it, anticipating a backstep from Rekkles that just did not happen. For now, relatively quiet, but both supports with the new lane assignments, with both teams moving around so much, do seem like they feel more freed up to roam, to look for plays, to try to find these picks.
And the thing is we're kind of on a timer now for the next big Drake fight, and then we have to check in kind of the initial itemization, because no one should have a true, fully completed item. Although I need to hold it because Hilly fishing.
For it, will not find it, but he's already burned all of his cooldowns. Is forced to flash out there. Nimbus Cloak as well will take him out to safety, but definitely has to feel bad about that one.
At this point of the game state, I feel like Fnatic, when it comes to the big 5v5 over the Drake, if that's what it is, actually have the advantage here with the items that they have. But first, they're going to try to kill Wunder, possibly burn his TP.
Ooh, excellent kick to deny the hookshot wall dive, and now the Hextech ultimatum to deny a follow-up damage. Wunder trying to make his way out of this one, but doesn't look like he's going to get the opportunity. Healing from the tactical sweep will not come in time to save him, and now the TP coming down. Jankos needs to make it out to safety, but they're at least able to take that cooldown away.
Good punish, though, from Fnatic. They catch Wunder trying to push out that wave, and they're able to get another kill in their back pocket. And I think the fact that Fnatic is willing to make these plays, keeping the gold very even this early into the game, is definitely going to benefit them, because you're still looking at this Gangplank, looking at this Corki duo. You know how devastating it can be in the late game, and you only have to look at last week when Fnatic had a very similar setup, if not an identical setup to this, that they know how to play those mid to late game fights. So Fnatic right now feeling very comfortable as G2 now drop the Rift Herald in mid lane.
Yeah, and we've basically been handshaking on funneling these plates into these 2 ADCs, and until the Herald came down, it was actually a strong advantage in favor of Fnatic as a very late Gangplank ultimate comes out. Bwipo did not want to burn it before the dragon fight.
Oh, and that last plate's very tanky, but not nearly tanky enough as we see Nemesis picked off in the side lane.
That's surprising. I wonder what Caps was up to there. Well, I think what's the weirdest thing is why is Caps there? Because when we look at the lane states, like, there's no real reason for him to just be sitting in that brush, and I think he just caught Nemesis unaware.
It's just a huge mistake, though. Fnatic are going to try to force their hand anyway. Again, there's still a significant item discrepancy, especially between the 2 ADCs. The fact that Rekkles is sitting on 2 pieces of physical damage, whereas Caitlyn had to go back and just now picked up hers, but that could have really cost Fnatic, because they'd been setting up for that Drake for a while and felt really strong with the power that they had for the time.
But as we look at it, gold 1K now in G2's favor on the back of a few picks like that. Kill score definitely in their favor, but definitely need to be careful about letting too many of these Drakes slip away. Top lane match remains relatively even, but it has just been a trade back and forth for blows. Once again, though, we see Hylissang roaming to the top side of the map. Don't think he can match the pressure of Jankos, but he will lay down a little bit of damage here after Shock procced. Bwipo maybe feeling confident on this one as Selfmade starts to bring up the rear.
Thing is that Bwipo had just used his ultimate defensively to try to clear out around the Herald in the mid lane. You know, maybe if he hadn't done that and he has ultimate there, they'd try to chase onto that with Selfmade in the wings and try to force a kill.
I will say that this Cloud Soul is also going to be really beneficial for Fnatic. I think that having the ultimate available on the Gangplank more often, the Jhin available more often, even the Pyke, the downtime between team fights I think is extremely valuable. So I think that if they are able to grab it, they're going to get a lot of benefit from it relative to G2, who perhaps, you know, their ultimates are already on a relatively low cooldown.
Caps, though, taking a big chunk of damage here, and I think you're completely right, Vedi. Just anytime you can reduce the cooldown on a GP ult, you're just going to have a great game. That said, we might have a dive here on the bottom side as Nemesis feels good in these trades, but doesn't know about G2 lingering in the darkness. As meanwhile, Fnatic trying to make play on top side. G2 actually getting kicked off there for Hylissang, trying to isolate the Pyke, trying to kill him before Bwipo and Selfmade can jump into this one, but the kickback to deny Jankos. He wants to finish Hylissang so badly. One more auto comes in, Jankos gets the bite down, and now they're looking to turn it. The Volibear stats way too strong. They ignore the GP, they look straight at the Lee Sin, leaping in, going into the tower, will finish him. The shield coming down, Jankos isn't worried about it. Wunder going back in for Bwipo in a clean fight.
Volibear is just such a BS champion. That is the breakdown there. Jankos also now 4-0-1. The power of this champion, considered the strongest dueling jungler right now by a lot of LEC pros and teams.
By the way.
Yeah, by the way.
Yeah, I think that Jankos was able to demonstrate how strong Volibear can be in these
yes.
I mean, I think the craziest thing was...
His personal touch.
The most ridiculous thing about this was the vast majority of the fight was Wunder and Jankos actually just running after Hylissang. So here comes the engage from Wunder, misses the stun, of course doesn't have vision, but a really good knockback from Hylissang actually gets Wunder out of the ultimate, which means he can run to safety. But then of course he runs out of those mobility tools, and then G2's like, okay, now we can commit. Selfmade and Bwipo quickly realize, okay, in this 2v2 we do not win, so they're forced to flash out, but that's not enough.
So on the back end of the play, have to give credit to Wunder on this one. He
played the Camille beautifully.
No, so he eases in, he flashes to the side of the Phantom Undertow because while he can't see Pyke, he can see the particle. And so he knows that if he gets stunned by that, he won't be able to follow up with ulti onto Hylissang. But because he flashes to the side of it, still getting the extended range from the follow-up hook shot, he is able to land the following ult onto Hylissang, and they can secure the kill. Ultimately, very small thing, but big in the scheme of that play. And now we've got Wunder, who was getting bullied a little bit earlier on, matching Bwipo in the Triforce.
And I think that's a really good point out there, Drakos, because we'll notice that a lot of big spikes are coming through as well. Corki still ramping up a little bit by going for the Hex Drinker. Your spike will be delayed a little bit longer, but you can see Jhin already working on the second itemization with the Zeal coming through. Hylissang having completed the Umbral Glaive as well means that Fnatic is getting very close to being ready to go for a lot of these big fights, whereas G2 only sitting at those very first items, the Luden Zeko coming through the LeBlanc. Still feeling pretty good, strong one-item power spikes, but Fnatic, I feel, are chilling right now. They're pretty happy. They're pretty cool.
Which is why they shouldn't try to over-force here.
I agree, yep.
Whereas I feel like G2 are actually perfectly ready to start forcing, which is why you can now see that they're looking at trying to pull Wunder to them.
And Wunder waiting in the darkness here once again, trying to catch a member of Fnatic rotating. Cloud Rift as well means it's that much faster for him to move between the lanes. Fnatic pushed back here. As you said, they're pretty comfortable in this position, but definitely need to be careful about giving up too much vision control as the third Drake will be on the table in less than a minute.
Okay, so now while we're on an open map and we have a small lull state before the Cloud Drake is about to spawn, I want to talk about kind of Fnatic at their best. And when it comes to a composition like this, the cool thing about Fnatic is how many formations they have and how they approach their lane assignments because of a guy like Hyli. I know Hyli's been getting a lot of criticism right now, very justifiably so, but watch where Hyli kind of spends his time. He spends a ton of time with Bwipo, sometimes he's teamed up with Selfmade. He's almost never with Rekkles. He actually spends the least amount of time with his AD carry of any other support in the league. Whereas Mikyx, obviously also because of the champion that he's playing, is tethered to Perkz. So this gives Fnatic so much more creativity, flexibility, and versatility about where their lane assignments are and how they attack you in those creative lane assignments that Vedius was talking about earlier.
Meanwhile, G2 right now already starting to split up the map, but they're being forced to group because they know this Drake is an important one. Wunder's now coming down, hit that level 11 mark. We can see that Nemesis has the package. This is going to be a big fight. Let's see if Fnatic can secure that third Drake.
Jankos running forward. He'll drop the Herald in the mid lane. In the meantime, the package goes down. He's going right into Perkz, but he gets bound mid-air and shut down. but Wunder's gonna get in trouble. Now there's the reset for Hylissang. They have to be careful. There's so much gold will go to Fnatic if they can find this fight advantage. Hylissang still has the reset up. Jankos is now gonna be in trouble. He's kicked back. Chance to ult to give himself a little bit more health. Hylissang patient on the trigger here. Ulti still available. A few more seconds. G2 has to be careful before they re-engage. Caps stepping forward. Hylissang gonna run another reset soon. Caps will not get pulled in, but Bwipo will, and that means another one drops, and G2 suddenly in charge of the fight and flash forward the change, but now Selfmade trying to turn it right back. Hylissang trying to pull him over the wall, but Jankos there to body block, there to make sure that nothing else can happen. Fnatic fishing for a massive play, but they're getting nothing done as the Herald tears through the mid lane.
Fnatic lost so much in this fight. Even if they get the fadeaway kill on Mikyx, it's still not worth it, and they're not even gonna get it!
Oh, Caps is fishing for everyone though, because Selfmade's burning. They're gonna grab another one, 10-4, as Wunder suddenly right back in the fight. He uses his TP to get there, and Rekkles is now in trouble. G2 playing at their own pace. Tempo, tempo, tempo.
And G2 just obliterate Fnatic off the map. Things were looking so good for Fnatic. We talked about the itemization and how they didn't need to force this fight. They were 2 dragons up. They could have just conceded this, but they're going to lose so many towers, and Nemesis with that blunder cost Fnatic a lot.
It was just a blunder. He just straight ended that fight. And yeah, he picks up a kill right there, but that was disastrous for Fnatic. The Observer showed you the inhib tower got smashed through. That Herald just went nuts. G2 picked up the Drake. They got so much kill gold. They're now super strong with the itemization. 10 stacks on Caps. That was disastrous from Fnatic.
Just brutal start to the fight. They had the package. It felt like there's no way they lose this. They've got all the cooldowns they need, but we look at the start here, and things just right off the bat are not looking good.
So initially, that was such a good amount of damage coming out from Nemesis, and I'm curious if the package was simply a misclick, or he sees the binding coming through and he just wants to get out of there so that he doesn't get rooted down. But either way, it costs Fnatic a lot because a lot of their damage disappears. All of the focus then comes down to Jankos, who they just cannot melt through, and this is where you get to see some of the range power and poke power that Caps and Mikyx have together, dashing in, landing these bindings. If anything hits, it means death for Fnatic.
But more importantly, the way that G2 play on the absolute edge here is incredible because Pyke has reset. They're all at 50% health across the entire fight. One set of cooldowns from any Fnatic champion means Pyke resets once, can reset again, a ton more gold goes into their pocket, but G2 play perfectly on the edge to make sure that Hylissang gets no more value out of that ultimate, and now he's having a hard time even playing the game up against Caps as whew, big ult comes in. He's going to take his time with this one. Hylissang just getting walked down here. Rare that you see a Pyke get walked down like that, but there you go. Caps unstoppable. That's a 14 stacks Medjai's, and that might be the final nail in the coffin.
And now things are really starting to come undone for Fnatic here. Hilly caught out placing Vision. Nemesis getting caught out by that binding into a very unfortunate package in that last team fight. We talked about how massive the gold swing was going to be in favor for G2. And when you give a team like G2, especially when they already have such a high mental edge against Fnatic, any sort of leeway like this, they start to eat up the map and eat up the game. Things are very quickly getting out of control for Fnatic. They need to pump the brakes and remind themselves that they don't need to force. Slow things down. Wait for your item break points.
The question is it too late for Fnatic? Because while they did a great job of keeping the game even, you've now given G2 a lot of agency in this game. They have hit a lot of items that are extremely valuable for them. You can see the Storm Razors coming through.
Yeah, the Caitlyn build.
I know we were talking a lot about it, Frosk, and how this is a bit of a shift that we typically see, but it kind of gets rid of that mid-game lull that you often see from a Caitlyn, and now G2 looking to invade.
Quickshot wall dive to get things kicked off. They're fighting from multiple angles, but Fnatic are pulling back well. Rekkles is going to be in trouble here, though. Caitlyn all coming up. He's going to walk back behind the team to get body blocked. Will not go through in the end, though. Incredibly low. Could be in trouble. Curtain call comes out to dissuade any further fallout from G2, but we'll take stock of things, and they get the cleanse out of Rekkles, they get the flash out of Selfmade, but they do give up a few cooldowns of their own. Jankos and Wunder both burning flash in the exchange.
But there's nothing that is really accosted there from G2 is Hilly. Because if they get the kills there and then they quickly turn it around to Baron because they're trying to set up for picks, you know, it'd be one thing if it was a giant 5v5, but they knew that Nemesis wasn't there. So if they get the kills there, they immediately turn to Baron, and that's basically game over. So I actually like the fact that G2 are continuing to push their advantage and really fishing to see if they can find Fnatic out of position.
And I think what's really interesting about this game is that, you know, as we're getting to the mid to late stages, Fnatic versus G2 has always been an interesting one, and this year, obviously G2 has had Fnatic's number, but at the beginning of this game, we talked a lot about these two mid laners and how when you look at Caps versus Nemesis, there's going to be a lot of stakes on the line, especially when you look at how Caps has been by far and away the best performing player on this G2 roster. In a moment that mattered the most, it was Nemesis's falter that cost Fnatic potentially the game, or at the very least one of the most pivotal team fights that we've seen so far in this game.
And you have to remember what this game means, because obviously Fnatic G2, it has a lot of history, it's a big rivalry, but remember that the race for playoffs is the more immediate challenge for both these lineups, and you heard it from Trevor earlier. In 95% of remaining scenarios, if Fnatic win this game, 95% of those scenarios, Fnatic make playoffs. That is a huge jump from where they're currently hovering around 75. Massive difference, and this could have been the game that made them sit comfortable, feel good about the rest of the season, and instead they could be in dire straits coming into the next Super Week.
Has there ever been a timeline where G2 and Fnatic didn't make playoffs?
I'm just gonna say no.
I'm gonna say no.
Because it just doesn't feel possible.
It doesn't feel possible.
It doesn't. I mean, I know it is, but it doesn't feel possible.
Trust me, there have been times where Fnatic and G2 have been knocked out very early in playoffs.
Yes.
But there have been, I don't think there's ever been a time where they haven't made it. Now, we see Nemesis and Bwipo looking for a pick. Oh, but Perkz answers back.
Oh, big damage from the Stormrazor. Now Bwipo's the one in trouble. They try to get the fight kicked off. Bwipo ticking down, and Cap's going to be dominating now. Nemesis tries to leap back. Still has the Hexdrinker shield, but Cap's now just hunting for blood. This is a very big LeBlanc. I don't know how many Magi stacks she has, but more than enough to one-shot anybody who steps wrong up against her. And now G2 will push in on the bottom side.
The thing about this itemization on Caitlyn by going the Infinity Edge into the Stormrazors, especially in tandem with the LeBlanc, is that she works like a poke champion then. It is all about kind of the slower, headshot, big auto attacks that are coming out. And then when you have such a fed LeBlanc, it's basically like poke, 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 dead. That's how G2 are winning these fights.
And I feel like we're really getting to see how good Caps can be when he gets a slight lead on this LeBlanc, like 6-0. And his laning phase was tough. He was struggling in the 1 versus 1, and he was falling a little bit behind, but the guy hasn't faltered so far, and as you rightly said, Frost, he's utilizing the poke well with his counterpart.
I respect your solo queue mental fortitude so much. You see the enemy LeBlanc like 6-0-3, like DW guys, slightly, we scale.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, okay, Corki's now got the upgraded Morgana, the Trinity Force. Legitimately, in that 1 versus 1, Corki can do some serious damage. Of course, the problem is, it's not really a 1v1.
And there's some problems. So one of the things that you guys have talked about more and more this season as analysts, as color casters, is the concept of agency. G2's comp, everybody has CC. Fnatic's comp, 3 members have CC. Jhin and Hylissang, not a ton of it. So I feel like while Fnatic definitely are going to get stronger, definitely are going to feel good about these item spikes coming in, it's very hard for them to pick a fight on quote-unquote their terms. As we can see, Wunder showing us a little bit of that agency here, because Hylissang certainly does not have any in the fight. Jankos going to follow up top side. Cap's going to go look in to try to finish with a one-shot here. Hexdrinker doing a little bit of work, but not enough to finish the job, as Cap's just going to zoom out to safety. But no, Nemesis, a little bit of redemption after that play, but he goes into the redemption and dies just like that. No, what?
The irony is he's saying a little bit of redemption, and then it's redemption that kills him.
I can't claim big brain. That was unintentional. That was cruel twist of fate there.
I would say he thought it was his. I don't know.
Oh, Caps now will end up losing his life.
Okay, that's actually big. Okay,
shutdown.
yes, there's 2 big shutdowns that just happened on exactly who you wanted to happen. The Gangplank as well as the Corki, and the fact that Caps just lost a ton of stacks on the Megas. Still sitting on 10, still going to hurt. But that is actually pretty massive for Fnatic. And if we talk about kind of the big 2 pivotal points, oh no.
Oh, boop, boop, boop.
If we talk about the 2 big pivotal points in this game, it's been Nemesis Valkyring into his death on that dragon fight, and then Nemesis and Bwipo picking up those 2 big shutdowns. So maybe this opens the door back for Fnatic to get their foot in this game.
Let's have a quick look at the gold. If the observers could swap back over so that we can see some of the differences. Both mid laners actually identical in gold right now. One of the biggest problems that Fnatic is struggling with is the AD carry difference right now. Perkz has just been racking up these assists. He has a level advantage. He has a 2k gold advantage, and he is basically a full item over Rekkles. Mikyx now completing the Shurelias as well means that this bot lane for G2 is like pretty much at its strongest point.
There's also just the issue of who's going to stop Volibear?
Yeah.
Like, Jhin's not stopping Volibear.
I mean, Jhin's not, like, one of Jhin's biggest problems is he's not a tank killer, right? And this Volibear is incredibly strong right now, level 13 as well.
Well, if he runs into the enemy jungle, they might find a quick solution, but he's too tanky, and they can't pull him off. Hook coming over the wall? Maybe? No, not going to connect there, and the Shurelias will just ferry the rest of G2 out to safety. I take it back, guys. He's unkillable. I don't know what they do.
Well, they brought WoW to League of Legends. That's what he looks like right now.
Yeah, definitely some raid boss fight. With 2.5 items, and not even like the craziest expensive tank items. That's Dead Man's Plate, Cinderhulk.
Yeah, well, I mean, he also, like, the fact that he's level 13 is also a really big deal, because, well, not only does he have 2 levels over Selfmade, basically making this Lee Sin pick pretty invaluable at this point in the game.
The word you're looking for is worthless.
Yeah. I was trying to be nice. But yes, means that Jankos is going to be a very solid front line that's difficult for Fnatic to get through. And right now, they're just doing what they can to survive as Wunder goes in again.
All going to come out if they kill the jungler. They can most certainly turn their attention to Baron, but they're going to back off. They don't want to overstay their welcome. Hylissang, though, now looking for the re-engage. With the binding down, he can feel free to dash forward. Hook coming out, will he flash to complete? No. Just backing off as Redemption heals. G2 back up, and Perkz, 90 caliber nets back towards Fnatic. I like it.
Well, he does have the rapid fire cannon. If he has that in conjunction with the headshot, you know that's going to hurt. And right now, G2 are just gaining full control over the top side jungle. Observers, if we can quickly look at the vision that Fnatic see right now. Let's see how much of the map. You can see it's pretty dark for Fnatic right now. Hylissang getting a little bit of vision back, but that Baron is very scary, and they're doing what they can to make sure that they can maintain some semblance of control.
And one of the best things that G2 have done this game is how often they're finding Hilly when he's trying to lay down that vision for Fnatic or find these deep flanks. Think of how many times you've seen Wunder or Caps finding Hilly in a jungle and then just blowing him up. And that's part of the reason why the map is still so dark for Fnatic. Now, observers showing us that Nemesis is waiting for the perfect moment to grab that package just in time for Fnatic to spy G2 starting this Baron. So, Fnatic fans, this is your moment. This may be the best shot that you have to come back.
Best shot to watch Selfmade get one shot, because here comes Caps. Now, Nemesis though trying to fire back. Nemesis does a ton of damage. Wunder getting absolutely shredded here, but now Perkz is in the midst of the fight. He's cutting through Nemesis just like that. Jankos leaping out to safety with the ultimate, but they're just trading blows. No one's getting the Baron. That's a shutdown. Yet another shutdown onto the Camille, and here comes the curtain call. Perkz gonna be in trouble here. Hylissang can find the follow-up, but a good body block from Mikyx. Just taking his time, throwing out the binding, and they both sides will retreat. However, 2 kills going in Fnatic rather, losing 2 members in the exchange.
But Fnatic do stop G2 doing the Baron, so they're going to walk away pretty content with that. The Drake is alive. They're probably not going to be able to contest that objective, but I got to give a shout out to Caps, man. The target selection there was beautiful. He didn't try and execute Rekkles. He didn't try and go for Nemesis. His eyes were on the jungler, the smite steal. He doesn't want to run that risk at all. And look, both of them are right next to each other. He's like, no smite steal allowed. You will die. Not only is that an easy kill because he's 5 levels behind Caps, but the target selection was just smart. Now Wunder clearly here trying to set up and lock down the Corki, who can't get away using the package because of that ultimate, then allows Perkz and Jankos to come in from behind and help secure that kill.
Yeah, shout out Perkz as well as the drive-by heal to make sure that Caps retains all of his Magi stacks and gets out very healthy, now sitting on 14 and can do that again to Selfmade whatever time he wants.
And I want to bring it back to something we talked about in the draft, which was kind of the idea that Hylissang would want to roam around. And G2 respected that. And at first I was like, Camille, okay, that's fine. But as we look more and more in this game, Camille is absolutely ruining Hylissang's day. He just never gets to play League of Legends. And it's a similar story for Nemesis. All these champions who normally would be able to get out of these skirmishes are getting absolutely blown up because Wunder just holds them down while the rest of G2 get to punch them.
I guarantee you that if G2 do close out this game and it comes to Poggers, like Wunder's probably not going to be on the list because the other G2 members are also doing a phenomenal job. But you are correct. This Camille pick is actually coming up pretty clutch, and Wunder is playing it beautifully.
Flash forward from Hylissang, though, he's going to put back Jankos, not the target that he wanted. So the team backing off, of course, always posturing towards this Baron, trying to threaten. Caps will not get spotted out by that ward there, or not the ward, rather the trap. They're trying to finish this one. Good damage down on the Caps. Now the curtain call comes in. Caps needs to be careful. Wunder can leap into body block. The clone's going to block one more shot for him. Wunder's going to block the other one. The Redemption going to come in to heal him up. Oh, that's going to be what that's it. Hylissang can't get out of that one. Dashes out to safety, but now Wunder turning the fight right back. Selfmade's not even going to find the kick, and Fnatic are getting shredded. They thought they had Caps, but now they're getting caught out left and right. Rekkles and Nemesis untouched, though. The big sources of damage. They can clear the ways, but for now, G2 just have the highway paved for them to head right to that Baron.
And again, I thought Fnatic found a great opportunity there. Getting that chunk onto Caps would have been massive. It would have bought Fnatic a little bit more time. But then Hylissang gets caught out. Selfmade goes for a kick, which looked flashy. It did land onto Perkz, but there wasn't enough follow-up. G2 are going to take the Baron off of this. They're looking to extend the win record this year to 7-0. And they're looking to make sure that Fnatic cannot take down G2 this year.
And it's been just such a dominant performance by this guy on your screen in particular. I mean, you can see it in the KDA, but he's everywhere. Fnatic can't go anywhere near their jungle. Caps just immediately deletes them. Level 17 on both the carries.
And while I respect
Selfmade.
the call from Fnatic to draft a lot of the picks that they're comfortable with, we'll hold that thought because Bwipo appears to be in dire straits. He's just now about to find that out as Wunder leaps in with the tag sweep, can follow with the precision protocol. Doesn't even get a chance to use the ultimate there. It still goes on cooldown, but Caps will kill him before the ult even comes out.
Yeah, that's a rough one for Bwipo. So we can have a look back at this replay. Hylissang flashes in. His target is either Perkz or Mikyx. Oh, okay, thank you for highlighting that one, observers. Caps also makes mistakes, face planting into that wall. Showing that even the best players can fumble. Doesn't have the W here, and then he takes the barrel to the face. And this is where we see, okay, this is a really good chunk of damage. He's going to use the clone to block that first hit. And then we're going to see here Mikyx with a fantastic binding. Just clipping onto Hylissang, locking him for eternity into the binding. Allowing this, and a great kick again onto Perkz, but too little, too late. Rekkles and Nemesis can't get involved, and now with the Baron buff, G2 on the doors of Fnatic's Nexus as they look to end this game.
Most certainly knocking as Perkz is essentially untouchable here. Hylissang just getting popped before he can contribute anything to the team fight. Pyke went behind, has to be one of the worst champions to play, especially against a comp like G2's. Max can still hold on to hope. Bwipo throwing down an ultimate. They'll find the snare. They're looking to pick off Mikyx. Good damage now coming in. A barrel to follow up. Jankos going to leap out, but he's given access for Selfmade to go forward. The binding now lands onto Nemesis. Nemesis is going to be in trouble as Perkz just shreds through him, and the rest of the team is just dying. G2 are just picking their individual matchups and shredding through every single opponent. Rekkles going to flash back. Wants to get something, but he's only hitting a clone, and there's nothing left. Triple kill for Perkz coming through on the Caitlyn, and G2 can just walk it into the base.
And once again, G2 completely destroy Fnatic.
And in 2020, there is nothing here for Fnatic. G2 7-0 in the head-to-head matchup. Rekkles will get a consolation shutdown, but that's all he's getting this season.
And that's a scary G2. Was that the best performance from Fnatic? Absolutely not. But that was an amazing performance from multiple members of G2. And we've been waiting for them to return to form. Is this the 2019 MSI Champions form? No, but I think that's the closest we've seen this summer split.
And you know that while this G2 fans are going to be happy, like not only did they take down one of their big rivals in Fnatic, you're also seeing a G2 seem to be back on form. They seem to find picks that work for them. They seem to fit within the meta. Like they're kind of playing the way they found so much success with in the past. But Fnatic fans, they're going to feel nothing but frustration because it feels like that when we saw those huge best of fives in the past, it was like back and forth, but there seems to always be that one big mistake where it seems to be that it was Fnatic that made that mistake.
Why do they force? Fnatic constantly have compositions where they don't need to force, and they do force, and I don't understand.
Kevin, tell me when you need us to shut up, because we're really excited about the game, so we're just going to keep talking. So you let me know when I need to toss to break. But like, when I look at it, Fnatic have been here before. They've drafted Comfort. But in this draft, I look at the picks that they got. They're fine for Fnatic. But in the context of giving up Volibear for your Gangplank?
But even that, look, but that, the way they played the early game was fantastic.
I agree. I don't think necessarily the draft is entirely the problem. I think it was the choices.
The way they played the level 1 was great, but then immediately they followed up with another overforce, and they just threw away.
That's my point. Like, I don't think that the draft itself was like what I had an issue with. It was the fact that they did what I felt like they won top lane, they won mid lane, they won bot lane. Like they were even in the mid game. And then you're like, okay, just chill. Chill.
They
had the Drake lead. It's not like they were under pressure of a soul.
All right. We clearly want to keep talking about this. Keep play the game. Twitter, Jankos, Caps. Twitter's the plays. Jankos, Caps, and Perkz are your options. As far as who won the dating game show between candidate 1, 2, and 3, I'm going to say G2
you
are
really... Vote on Twitter.
You can vote on Twitter.
Me.
You don't know what everyone's tastes are. We don't know that. We're soon going to hear from Jankos before Mickey joins us in the post-game lobby. Be sure to stick around. Woo!
Everyone.
on to the LEC for the last interview of the day, and I hope it's gonna be a banger, and I think it is because we have G2's Jankos. Hello, Jankos.
Hello.
Hi. Congratulations, a 2-0 week. It's been a while. Does it feel good to finally get that 2 wins back on the board?
Definitely, yes. I almost forgot the feeling of being 2-0. I don't think it feels necessarily super good, but it doesn't feel bad. And normally, if you go 0-2, it's kind of doomed. And if you go 1-1, you also don't feel very good about yourself. So I think having secured the 2-0 week in week 7 as well, and knowing that most likely we will end up in playoffs because we probably will have to win like 1 more game out of 3 next week, makes me pretty happy.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. Talk to me a bit about this game specifically. You had a tremendous game on Volibear. And what really was your strategy in the late game? It just looked to me like you got the shield, you just ran in and tried to kill someone and just deflect a little bit of attention. What was the game plan like for the late game stages of that one?
Well, I mean, I don't think I can really do much in the late game on a Volibear. I think I just have to make sure that my carries can hit as much as they possibly can, and and hopefully they can get kills. So I think I was pretty surprised that Fnatic opened Volibear. I don't feel like this champ should be opened, and they traded for Hylissang Gangplank, which doesn't make any sense in my opinion. And then I think the game could go really, really badly if not Hylissang jumping under the tower bot lane. I think I was really close there from dying, and if I died there, I think bot side would be really lost. But I mean, I don't know what happened to Selfmade, right? But he just died. Mistakes happen, and after that, I feel like the game was in our hands, and I'm pretty happy that we secured it, and I'm really happy with how we played early game. Me alongside my teammates, and even though we gave up a couple of drakes early on, we still won fights, we still made picks, and it feels like we are slightly back.
I love how you're so careful. You're like, are we back? Is this it? But yeah, talk to me about that, because this is such a different split for G2 and for you than the ones you've had before that. I saw an interview where you said, well, now we actually have to care because we have to fight for playoffs. How different has the experience of this split been for you personally?
Well, the interview is kind of outdated. Now that we secured 2-0 week, we don't really need to care anymore. We can go back to inting and just, having some free time and not actually like caring about week 8. But no, on a serious note, I think that it's for sure very stressful because normally by the end of the split, we were secured in playoffs, most likely even secured first seed, and we didn't actually have to win every single game. Meanwhile, right now, if we drop a game, we might not get the seed that we want, or we might just not get into playoffs, considering that before this week, OG had a 2-0 record against us. Teams like Excel and SK also won against us. So assuming that they would all win their games and they would also win over us, we'll be out of playoffs. So I'm pretty happy that we secured the win against Vitality Fnatic, and it seems like we are heading strong into week 8, and definitely it's going to be way less stressful for week 8. But we are still aiming to go 3-0 and secure the best seed possible heading into playoffs.
Looking forward, of course. I know it's a hard one because it's hard to kind of judge where you can end up, but we know what kind of peak G2 looks like from a while ago for now. Sorry to put it that way. How far do you think you're off for that? And do you think that you can get to a higher peak than you have last year, for instance?
I mean, I don't know, right? Because teams improve every year, and I think that peak G2 from last year would look worse in 2020 just because everyone is slightly better. And of course, teams like Mad Lions didn't really exist last year, right? So we also have more competition that we have to deal with, and that also makes us grow. So I think at our peak this year, we can be better. We just need to go to Asia for a bootcamp, right? Worlds are confirmed to be in China, so I really hope that we can make it to Worlds. But before that, I still want to make it to playoffs first, and I also want to win playoffs because we are the best team in Europe, and I still believe in it. And I think we will take playoffs as long as we get to playoffs.
As long as you get there. Interesting. Okay, one thing I have to ask you before I let you go is I was talking to Laura before this, and she was like, "Okay, who are you interviewing?" And I'm like, "Oh, I think I'm going to talk to Jankos." And she said, "Well, he always brings up Lee Sin, even if I don't bring it up." And I said, well, he played it yesterday. So let's do the Jankos Lee Sin checkup. How is your Lee Sin right now?
It's good, I think. I mean, I think my CEO Carlos is actually my #1 Lee Sin hater, but he also doesn't care much. He's like Hakuna Matata, I can play Lee Sin. But it doesn't help when you're team owner, your boss tells you that your listen is a free lose, right? You don't even want to play it. But I know he's joking, so I'm pretty happy with the relationship between me, my teammates, and everyone around. But I do have a lot of confidence on any champion I play, and I do think my set and Volibear are better than they were last week and 2 weeks ago, and I didn't really get to show my set just yet. But I did have opportunity to play Volibear right now, and it looks stronger. And I do think my listen is also really, really good. So it's not like shadow level quite yet, but I think I can get there in playoffs.
Okay, thank you for that. We'll check in again next week. Thank you very much, Jankos. Congrats on the 2-0 week.
Thank you.
All right, we're gonna take a quick break, but when we come back, it'll be PGL with these guys, apparently. All right.